Organization is the second function of management and was defined as the process of delegating and coordinating tasks and resources to achieve the objectives. The four resources of organization are human, physical, financial, and information. Organizational structure is a system used to define a hierarchy within an organization. It identifies its job, its function, and where it reports to within the organization. The next point is organization structure definition. An organizational model, also called as organization structure, defined as organization through its framework, including line of authority, communication, duties, resources, allocations. A model is driven by the organization's goals and serve as the context in which processes operate and business is done. The ideal model depends on the nature of the business and the challenges. In fact, in turn, the model determines the number of employees needed and their required skill sets. There are many definitions of organization. The definitions are given below. According to SOFA, purposive bodies which get a payoff from multiple contributions by coordinating them towards the common end. According to Applewhite, two or more people specialize in the functions each perform working together towards some common goals and governed by the formal rules of behavior. Next is the CAF law, a social system deliberately established to carry out some definite purposes. Next point is a type of organization. Organization theory and structure require that first, there must be a need for an organization to exist, and second, the organization must know the goals it is trying to achieve. To accomplish these objectives, a structure should be provided that enable the management to organize, direct, plan, motivate, and evaluate. These tasks can be performed through either a formal or an informal organization. Now, formal organization. A formal organization is based on hierarchical job organization with tasks assigned by the supervisor to the subordinate. An organization seen in most organizations chart with their job tasks, hierarchy, and a communication network. It assumes that control of the behavior is accomplished through rational judgment and that the manager is the person most qualified to solve problem. It assumes that people should instructed of the production. It is strictly authoritarian. Next is the informal organization. Informal organization realize that many relationships exist that cannot be illustrated in an organization chart. In other words, things get done outside the formal relationship that a chart reflects. It assumes that relationships occur in the many formal sections where ideas are generated, productivity in enhanced, and high moral in developed. Those who advocate informal organization contain this is how things are actually accomplished and thus oppose the formal authoritarian type of organization. Several types of organization structures are each defined to meet the needs of organizations that operate differently. Type of organization structure include division, functional, geographical, and matrix. A functional organizational structure is based on its job duties. A matrix structure, which has the two or several supervisors for each job to report to, is the most complicated but may be necessary for the large organizations with many locations and functional areas. However, 8 patterns may be commonly observed and listed. These are: number 1, line pattern; number 2, line and staff; number 3, functioning; number 4, line and functioning; number 5, line, staff and functioning; number 6, committee pattern; number 7, project structure; and last, number 8, matrix form. The organization setup of the sports administration in India, both educational sector and non-educational sector, is discussed hereunder with actual, not hypothetical, ongoing practices. The near-ideal organizational setup are also suggested whenever necessary. Basically, the sports administration in India is divided into education and non-education sector. The first is the non-education sector. The non-education sector sports administration is indicative of the organizational setup of the voluntary and autonomous sports bodies and government department directly dealing with physical education and sports. The non-education sector sports administration partially overlap the education sector organization setup, which is but natural. The non-education sports administration in India cover the entire sports and organization or agencies listed under its head function independently of one another. Some linkage among them at appropriate level of their hierarchical order is not ruled out. There is no subordination through the autonomy of its agency is well recognized. The government assert itself on its one through various ways without denying them their right of the pursue their own policies and program. The next point is Department of Youth Affairs and Sports. The Union Ministry of Human Resource Development consists of Department of number 1, Education; number 2, Culture; number 3, Women and Child Development; and number 4, Youth Affairs and Sports. An epitomized version of administrative setups of Department of Youth Affairs and Sports is given in the figure reproduced from the Annual Report 1995 to 1996, Part 3 of the Ministry of Human Resource Development, Annexes 32. With its closal administrative structure, the Department of Youth Affairs and Sports is the most powerful agency directing, guiding, financing, and controlling the youth affairs, physical education and sports program at the center. Since Youth Affairs has a separate establishment, discussion on the role and function of the Department of Youth Affairs and Sports shall be restricted to the physical education and sports only. The Department of Youth Affairs and Sports perform the following functions. Number 1, it formulates the national policy on physical education and sports, gives directive to concerned quarter accordingly. And number 2, it runs the several schemes: National Sports Program, National Sports Talent Search, Scholarship, National Awards Scheme for published literature on physical education and sports, Rural Sports Festival, National Sports Festival for Women, Sports Science Research Fellowship Scheme, either directly or through agencies via Sports Authority of India, National Institute of Sports. Point number 3, it provides financial support under various heads to A. IOA and the National Sports Federation. Number B. Sports Authority of India and Lakshmibai National Institute of Physical Education, that's a deemed university, Gwalior, state government. Number C. Such other organizations, institutions and agencies as are directly or indirectly connected with the sports development and the desirous of it. Point number 4. It controls the Sports Authority of India and the Lakshmibai National Institute of Physical Education, deemed University Gwalior. Point number 5. It gives the guidelines to the IOA and National Sports Federation on matters of the important and clear athletic squad, sports team and official for participation in the international sports competition. And next point 6 is it makes the available grant, that is on matching same percent or the some percentage basis to state government, rural schools, universities, colleges, etc. A. Creation of the sports infrastructure. B. Procurement of the important sports equipment. Number C. Laying of synthetic track or surface court, etc. Point 7. On the recommendation of the said, in consultation with concerned sports organization, National Sports Federation, IOA, Sports Authority of India, the department confer award for excellence. For example, Rajiv Gandhi Khel Ratna Award, Arjuna Award, Dronacharya Award, Case Award, pension, etc. on sports person for their achievement. Next point number 8. The department extend full cooperation to IOAS and National Sports Federation to organize the national game and international sports competitions. The first is the non-education sector. Under the non-education sector, there are the 4 points are coming. Number 1 is the Human Resource Development Ministry. Number 2, Indian Olympic Association. Number 3, State Sports Department, State Sports Council. Number 4 is the private agencies. Under Human Resource Development Ministry, it comes Department of Sports and Youth Affairs. After that, it has the 2, that's the Youth Affairs, Nehru Yuva Kendra Sanganathan. Another is the Sports Authority of India. And then the second point, Indian Olympic Association, it has the following points. That is the National Sports Federation and the Departmental Sports Board. Just after that, State Sports Association. Just after that, District Sports Association. Just after that, different several clubs are coming up. The third point, that's the Sports Department, State Sports Council. It has District Sports Department. Just after that, Coaching Center, Sports Wing and Sports Hostel. The fourth point, that's the private agencies. Under the private agencies, business, hostels, industry, professional clubs are coming. Next is the administrative setup of the Department of Youth Affairs and Sports. Department of Youth Affairs and Sports comes, number 1 is the secretary. In the secretary, it has again the 4, that is a joint secretary sports. Another second is the Joint Secretary Youth Affairs. Number 3 is a Financial Advisor. Number 4 is the Chief Account Controller. Under this Joint Secretary Sport, it has again 2. Director in Sports comes Sports Policy, Sports Infrastructure. After that, Subordinate Staff and Officer. And another Director Sports, it comes Sports Authority of India. Just after that, Under Secretary Sports, Federation Matters. And then Joint Secretary Youth Affairs and Sports is again the 3 types. One is the Deputy Secretary of Youth Services. Just after that, National Youth Policy. After that, Dex Officer SAI, LNIPE, PE, AICPE, Yoga Center. And then Joint Secretary Youth Affairs and Sports is again the Program Advisor. Under that, National Service Scheme. After that, Subordinate Officers. And the third one under the Joint Secretary Youth Affairs is Deputy Secretary Administration. Under that, it comes Administrative Matters. Next big point is education sector. Education sector cover educational institutions where physical education sports once considered simply extracurricular activities are a part and parcel of the general education process. In some state, physical education and sports is a regular academic curricular activity. In the other, say, after school program, and yet in other, it is neither. For the last 4 decades, an attempt has made to declare physical education a required curricular subject by reducing academic load, but this has not been possible due to such factors as Number one, want of the reformed sports policy. Number two, lack of will and determination on the part of the government. Number three, absence of professional commitment. Number four, apathy of the academic. And number five, lack of appropriate sports infrastructure in the educational institutions. The education sector is a fertile ground for excellence in sports, but utterly poor in resources. The government and budgetary support of the sports in the education sector is not even a drop in the ocean. Even the bare minimum pupil-teacher ratio of 250:1 at the school, as recommended in the National Plan of the Physical Education and the Recreation 1956, has been impossible to maintain. The sports scenario in colleges and universities has worsened over the decades, basically for the two reasons. Number one, the Indian society has become the more competitive today, and there is a rat race for more lucrative jobs and attractive career which leave hardly any time for the sport. And number two, in comparison to active sports, other passive means of recreation attract the youth more. Moreover, with a tremendous increase in incentives, awards, rewards, privileges, benefits, etc., most student athletes have begun to use the sports achievement as a springboard for entering highly prized career and courses that pursue support for excellence. The education sector undoubtedly is the cradle of institutionalized sports, but it dies requiring a complete renovation, rejuvenation, and revamping. Next is the state education sports wing. The set of the state education sports wing differ from state to state. In most states, the education sports wing is headed by an additional director or joint director or a deputy director with reasonably staffed administrative office. In general, the head of the sports wing works under the director of public instruction, but in some cases, he may receive direction direct from the education secretariat. No clear-cut policies are followed in structuring a state education sports wing. The wing subsists on the state funding grant from the central authority, government, and part of the sports fee relies from schools. The major functions of the state education sports wings are: number one, to nurture state sports schools, schools sports wing, and sports hostel, thereby concentrating on the training of promising athletes. Number two, to conduct state sports meet and competitions. And number three, to select and prepare the state team for participation in the national fixtures. Sometimes the control and supervision of the physical education teachers is vested in the sports wing. The sports wing also employ and deploy coaches and supporting staff. Next point is district education organization and structure administration. The assistant district education officer (PE) are part of the district education administration. Their duties are mainly supervisory and advisory with no financial power. On the one hand, they look after sports wing and hostel on the direction from the state sports wing. On the other hand, they organize the district sports tournament for the school student and prepare district team with the help of physical education teacher and the cooperation of the head of the institution. Except during district tournaments, sports day, mass activity demonstration, etc. The AEOs, that is the physical education teacher, have no supervisory control over the physical education teacher in private schools. In district that is especially education, sports administration receive a portion of the sports fees relies from the student and also budgetary support from the state education department, mainly for organizing sports tournament. In a school, there is one or more physical education teachers who take instructional classes, prepare the school team for participation in inter-scholastic tournament, look after sports infrastructure, and procurement sports equipment within budgetary provision. They also organize the play day, sports festival, and intramurals, where physical education is a compulsory subject in the working schedule of the physical educators is very tight, otherwise they are given other managerial duties. Organization setup of the sports administration in education sector. Government of India Department of Youth Affairs and Sports has a two subclass. One is School Game Federation of India, another is Association of Indian Universities. Under the School Game Federation of India comes State Education Sports Wing. After that, Education Officers, that is the physical education district level, and it has a two types, that is the government school PETs wing, another is the private school PETs. Under the Association of Indian Universities, University Department of Physical Education and Sports. Now it comes again two heading, that is the campus sports, another is the college physical education department. Organizational setup of typical state education sports wing. Secretary to the government education, it has two branches. Number one is Additional Director, Deputy Director Sports. Number two, Director of Public Instruction Schools. Under this heading, again it comes Sports School, Hostel, Course or in charge, Assistant Education Officer at the district level, and just after that school PETs come. And another third one is establishment. Organization comes in a great variety. Some organizations are public, some are private, some are formal, some are informal, some are service organization, other product organizations. One organization can be distinguished from another on the basis of its subjective structure, function, etc. Some organizations are voluntary bodies formed by like-minded individuals so as to protect and promote their common interests. Others are created by the government authority. Basically, the sports administration in India is divided into education and the non-education sector. The education sector includes the school, college, universities, and non-education sector includes association, federation, and clubs.